Good morning, food forest gardeners, and welcome back to the garden. This morning I was starting to write down a list of all the different leafy greens that we have in the food forest. I couldn't believe how big the list got. I got all the way up to 31, and I still may be missing some, but 31 is a good place to start. Because that's the famous saying, right, for Baskin Robbins, the 31 flavors, one different flavor for each day of the month. Well, with a perennial food forest type garden, we can get that many flavors of leafy greens, edible plants with edible leaves. That's the theme of this, and we're going to go through the garden and point out all of them. So I'll be pretty brief on each one just so we can get through this without it being too long. The first one we'll start with, what we'll do is we'll start at the ground cover layer, then we'll just move up in size. Then we'll cover the herbs, which is like a bunch of them. And then we'll get up into the shrubs and the trees and even the vines. Let's start with that ground cover, and here's one we just recently did a video on, and that's sweet potato, especially out here on the tender tips of the vines. Sweet potato. The next one I have on the list for a ground cover is wood sorrel. Let's go back here to this other part of the garden and see if we can find some wood sorrel. I believe we've got some that volunteered back here in the garden back here. Wood sorrel, and there's a bunch of different species of sorrel. They're all edible. You don't want to eat too much of them because it's got oxalic acid. It gives it that nice tangy flavor, which is nice. I know I had some wood sorrel in this area right here. Let's see if we can find it. Some people mistake sorrels for clover. It sort of looks a little bit like clover. Well, it may have just died back, and then I think it kind of seasonally it appears and then goes away sometimes. I might see some here in a bit. Well, here's some sorrel right here. There you go. I don't think that's the wood sorrel. The wood sorrel has much bigger leaves, but they're all very closely related and they're all the same. But yeah, this is good stuff right here. Tasty. Just don't go overboard with it because of that oxalic acid. Now let's get into the herbs. We've got all these tropical spinaches that we've talked about on the channel quite a bit. Sorry for the shaking there. Let's stabilize this a little bit. So let's go through all of them. Let's start with Suriname spinach. Here we go. Suriname spinach. They've got these little pink flowers. I like Suriname spinach. It's got a nice neutral flavor. You can throw it in salads, eat it raw, it's fine. Brazilian spinach, also known as sisu spinach. There we go. It's got sweet potato growing over the top of it. This is all below there. That's all Brazilian or sisu spinach. Okinawa spinach. The identifier for Okinawa spinach is the reddish color on the back side of the leaves like this. So there's got a bunch more of that. By the way, these tropical spinaches, they've all popped up after the hardest cold snap in over 30 years in Florida here. They all died back to the ground, but they all came back up. So that's a good sign that you can grow these and you don't have to be in a super tropical area to do it. Let's see, and then there's longevity spinach. Let's go over here. I brought my little cheat sheet with me listing all of these, so I'm just going on that. We've got a bunch of longevity spinach over here, but I'll just stop and show you. There's some right here. That's grown in here. Let's see. Rosemary's a good one. We have rosemary in different spots. There's some rosemary. course, that's a wonderful herb used in cooking. We use it for, my wife likes to make rosemary bread. Cuban oregano. Now, Cuban oregano is very tropical, very sensitive to frost. We had a lot of it growing over here, but the only one that survived was the one closest to the back, this south wall of the house. And it's right there. That little guy's the only one that survived. So obviously I'm not harvesting any of that. I'm just gonna let it grow. You can propagate that by cuttings very, very easily. Cuban oregano. Biden's alba. Biden's alba is very nutritious, good to eat. I don't really like the taste of it raw. I prefer to cook this, so just these tender tips. And you can just, throw that in a soup or put it in a covered dish with a little bit of water and microwave it for a few minutes. That's all it takes, and it makes it taste a lot better. Let's see. Virginia pepperweed. I just saw, we had a lot of Virginia pepperweed. Again, this is a volunteer, just a weed that pops up. And during the spring, we had lots of it everywhere. But I did notice just a minute ago when I was back this way, we've got a little bit of Virginia pepperweed still hanging around. Most of it seems to have just gone away and is probably going to pop up big again next spring. There's a little bit of Virginia pepperweed, I do believe, right there. I like the taste of that. It's got a unique sort of peppery taste, but I really like it. And then there's Greek oregano. Maybe I should have planned this video out a little differently so I didn't have to walk so much. But I need my steps, so it's all good. Greek oregano, we've got a bunch of that growing over here. These oregano, Greek oregano, and these other types of, there it is right in there, a whole bunch of that. All these type of Mediterranean herbs, and we've got some more on the list we'll get to in a minute. They do really well here in Florida. They like dry conditions, so since we're so sandy, it's pretty dry, and they like that. They grow well here. Garlic chives is next on the list. There you go, garlic chives. We use those in cooking. Society garlic. That's a good one. It's called society garlic because when you eat it, supposedly it doesn't make your breath smell. Going back on the Virginia pepperweed, there's some more right there. But society garlic, we should have some in this area if I can find it. I haven't actually even harvested that or anything. Oh, by the way, there's more sorrel. Lots of sorrel all over the place, really. But right in here, I know we had some society garlic, and it's probably buried in all these grasses and weeds now. But where is the society garlic? I need to find that because I like to harvest some of that from time to time. I don't know if I finished that thought, but yeah, you can eat this and it doesn't make your breath smell like garlic, even though it tastes like garlic. Well, I'm not finding it. We've lost our society garlic, but we'll probably find it again. When everything dies back from the cold, we'll probably still see the society garlic standing up in here. Let's see if you can get your hands on that. It's hard to find, but through Facebook Marketplace, you might find some, and that's a good one. It's a nice perennial. I did not know this till I was doing my little bit of research this morning, but I guess I should have known this. But banana leaves are, they're used to wrap food for cooking and serving food. You don't want to eat the leaves typically because they're just fibrous, but they're perfectly safe to eat, and you definitely can wrap food and cook it with banana leaves, and that's fine. Nothing toxic about it or anything. And then there's thyme, another one of those Mediterranean herbs. Let's see. I think we had some thyme over this way if we can find it. So our sunshine mimosa is starting to sort of take over everything over this way. But let's see if we can find that thyme. Well, in year 2 of our food forest, we're starting to get so much growth that we're maybe we can't find some things too good anymore. Could have swore I had the thyme over in this area. Maybe I put it somewhere else. Well, maybe we'll find it in a minute. Let's move on though. And then there's mint. Got a lot of mint growing all in this area. There you go with the mint. And all this mint over in here too. Mint. And of course mint is nice. There's all kinds of different mints. Lemongrass. Our lemongrass only barely survived the freeze, and it's not doing that well. That's all that's left. So it's pretty tropical. It's very cold sensitive, but if you have a warm enough spot, and maybe if I'd have just covered this good with a big pile of leaves, I could have protected my lemongrass. It would have done better. Onions. In my food forest up in Georgia, that entire food forest was just covered in wild onions. So they can pop up as volunteers, onions. Also, you've got your like Egyptian walking onions and all sorts of different onions that you can grow. And we had some nice volunteer onion. I say volunteer, I think it actually came from kitchen scraps and compost. And it was over here, but the heat may have caused it to just die back, and it may come back next spring. Okay, here's a plant that we had, but the cold got it, and that's katuk. Now we're moving on into the shrub layer. For katuk, you need some pretty good soil, really rich soil, almost like annual garden vegetable bed type soil for katuk, and it needs a pretty good bit of moisture and shade. And we don't really have that here yet. We will as this food forest matures. We'll have more shade and probably better soil. We're still going to get the cold from time to time, and katuk is pretty cold sensitive, and it didn't make it through the freeze for us. Okay, the next one is opuntia cactus. In Mexico, it's known as nopal cactus or nopales. And that's a good leafy green, basically. It's a green pad. We've got a bunch of it back here. That one also got hammered by the extreme freeze event that we had. But back here in some of the sunnier, drier spots. And so here's a thornless variety. It's growing really good back here. We've also had some volunteers. Let's see, this is a native Florida. It's got the thorns on it. So that volunteered and popped up here. But nopal cactus, I really like to eat nopal cactus. Slice it up like to where it's shaped about the same as a green bean and cook it just like you would green beans. It's delicious. And you can just put it in a covered dish with a little water and microwave it for a few minutes. And it's fine, ready to eat. Then there's chaya. This is one of those that you really need to cook. You got to cook your chaya leaves. You don't have to be extreme about it. You can, again, put them in a covered dish, microwave for 5 minutes, put them in a boiling pot of soup, cook it for 15-20 minutes. But chaya here is also pretty cold sensitive. We had about maybe 8 different chayas. They will grow up to be like a tree if you're in a tropical enough area. Here where we're at, I consider it a shrub because that's about as big as they'll get before they freeze and die back to the ground. That's the only one that made it here. It's pretty close to the south side of the house, kind of in a little protected spot. Chaya, but just make sure you cook the leaves because they're toxic if you don't. Bamboo shoots. Let's go back and look at our bamboo and look at what part of the plant you harvest and prepare as food and that's the little shoots. So it's only a certain time of year that you're gonna see the shoots on bamboo. Bamboo only grows for something like 3 months. The top part of the plant only grows for about 3 months of the year. And depending on what type of bamboo it is, it could either be more in the spring or more in the summer. There's so many kinds of bamboo, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of species, at least hundreds. And there's two basic types. You got your clumping bamboos and your running or spreading bamboo. These back here are clumping bamboos. And right down here at the base is where you would see the shoots coming out. And when they're fairly short, you got a fat little shoot there. The base of that shoot is quite edible. You can eat it raw. As you know, you can put bamboo shoots typically in Asian food. So bamboo, another one. I didn't know this again until I was doing my research, but cassava, it's not just the roots, yucca or cassava, but also the leaves. However, you definitely want to, I don't recommend eating. I'm not going to personally eat cassava leaves. It is actually a widespread practice in the world. A lot of people do it, but it has to be processed a lot to make it safe to eat. Let's look at our cassava back here. We just passed a few actually, but here's the biggest one. But it has to not only be cooked, but it has to be crushed. Crushed first and then cooked. I was learning this just reading about it this morning. But these leaves, I guess in a bug out kind of situation, post-industrial Stone Age kind of situation, if you crush the heck out of these leaves and cook the heck out of them, you can make them safe to eat, and at that point then they're pretty nutritious and a good source of food. But please proceed with caution on that. Maybe don't do it unless you're working with someone who's done it before and they know what they're doing. Let's keep going here. Cranberry hibiscus, and there's two kinds of plants known as cranberry hibiscus. There's one is called true roselle, which is not this one, and the other one is called false roselle. That's what this one is. On this one, you just eat these nice little tender green leaves. It's got that very cranberry tart flavor. It's wonderful. I love to put them on salads. The true roselle, which we don't currently have here, I grew a bunch of that up in Georgia. On that, you eat the big crunchy red base of the flower. It's called a calyx, and again, kind of cranberry flavored, crunchy and delicious, really good. Closely related to these roselles is okra, and this is probably the only plant on my list today that's always grown as an annual. But you can see the resemblance. The flower of okra looks very similar to the flower you get on both of the roselles, the true and the false roselle. And the pods are good. I like to eat the pods even raw or cooked, either way. But the leaves are also edible. As typical with a lot of plants, the more tender leaves are better. You can dry the leaves and use them for thickening stews. Dry the leaf and then powder it. Then you can throw that, if your soup is too watery and you want to thicken it a little bit, throw that in there. It'll thicken it right up, because it's got the same sort of mucilaginous properties that the okra pod has. Okra. Another one that's I did not know this until I started looking into it. Mulberry. Okay, mulberry leaves. So it's not just the berries, but the leaves. This is another one of those that you need to cook. So don't be too turned off by the fact that you have to cook things to make them safe to eat. I mean, think about potatoes. You would never eat a raw potato unless you really want a stomach ache. So you have to cook potatoes, and then you have to cook some of these others. Mulberry leaves. There's your, that's an ever-bearing mulberry. And back here we've got the Florida native red mulberry. These leaves are edible, but I've never eaten them personally. You're supposed to cook them pretty good. So, you know, I'll just kind of file that away in case I need to know that in the future. Probably not going to worry too much about trying to eat the mulberry leaves, but lo and behold, they are edible. Here's another one, figs. I did not know. I mean, I've seen where you can wrap food in fig leaves and cook them that way. And these leaves are really fibrous and not that good to eat, but if you cook them, or if you just dry the leaves and then just add the powdered dried leaf to a dish for flavoring, it's perfectly edible and safe to eat that way. Loquat leaves are edible. It's not just the fruit on the loquat. And it is said to be a very good medicinal when you use the leaf to make tea. So there you have it, loquat leaves. Make a tea. Might stave off cold and flu season. Then there's the classic moringa. Most people are pretty familiar with moringa. It's supposed to be highly nutritious, very high in protein, at least 20 different amino acids. So moringa, and here in our location in north central Florida, moringa dies back to the ground pretty much every year. We'd have to have a really mild winter for it not to do that. But that moringa is getting way up there, even though it just sprouted from ground level in the spring this year. Finally, the last one on our list. We've made it all the way down the list to number 31. And that is another volunteer. It'll take me a minute to walk back there. And this is a volunteer that grows here. You might be able to think of it. Central and North Florida. And the tips of the shoots are a lot like asparagus, and they really explode with growth in the spring. Sometimes when we're on hikes, I'll collect a big bunch of them, a whole handful about the size of a bunch of asparagus you would buy from the store. Take it home. Again, on this one, well, let me just tell you what it is. It's earleaf greenbrier, or greenbrier, just greenbrier in general. There's several species. The one that grows here is called earleaf. Let's see if we can find some back here, because I tend to just let it grow back here. Yeah, here we go. Earleaf greenbrier. That's what we have here. And these aren't actively growing tender tips on these. That's what you want to look for. It's generally a lighter green. It's real supple and it snaps off just like an asparagus. And the big ones, they'll grow really large ones like the size of a pencil or even a cigar, really big. And again, if I eat those raw, which is perfectly safe to do, I find that it gives me a little bit of a burning sensation on the back of my mouth, on my throat. But if you just throw it in a covered dish with a little bit of water, microwave it for 2 or 3, 4 minutes, and eat them that way, it's really good. It's just like asparagus, and very nutritious and very good. So there you have it, 31 flavors that you can just forage for right in your own backyard. You don't even have to leave your house. And leafy greens are really nutritious and important. You should make sure you get a lot of leafy greens in your diet. It helps all those phytonutrients, really helps your gut microbiome and helps you with your immunity. It helps you stay good and healthy. All right, 31 leafy greens. Grow them and eat them. Yum.